By giving our praises to the Most High, whose true name in the ancient Hebrew is Yahweh, in the name of his only begotten Son, whose true name in the ancient Hebrew is Yahweh Shai, and the Holy Spirit, which in ancient Hebrew is the Rakak Kwadash. Double honors to the elders at GMS who taught us this truth by the Holy Spirit. Honors to the brothers risking their life and freedom to push the gospel. Peace and blessings to the elect, which would be so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, and Seminole Indians who make up the lost 12 tribes of Israel, according to scripture and according to prophecy. But the elect would be 1/3 of the Israelites who will return back to the Most High during the last days, which is right now, to receive salvation. While the 2/3 of Israel who don't turn back to the Most High be destroyed with America, and that's all according to prophecy. So we back with another lesson through the mercy of Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shah. I think I'm going to entitle this lesson, "We Will Face Great Tribulation in These FEMA Death Camps." Or I may title it, horror stories of the concentration camps. Something along them lines. But what I've been saying is, week by week, things are going to unfold and we're going to hear how bad things really are. Dealing with ICE, what they really doing to the people, dropping them off in the ocean, alligator Alcatraz, incinerators popping up at these concentration camps. But now you got horror stories. The living conditions, people in there being tortured, they being starved, dehydrated. And we're going to get into some of that. So we're going to start with this first video from the elder Malcolm. Check this out.
But yeah, let's let her speak.
So I had a conversation with ChatGPT. So take it or leave it. It's just, I asked the questions, this is their answers, okay?
Forgive me.
So I wanted to know how many detention centers, aka CC camps, besides Alligator Auschwitz,
CC is concentration camps,
are they building right now across the United States? And how many are currently in use and how many are planned going forward? Because I've heard about the one in Michigan that I have heard it's opened already. They said, here's a clear snapshot of the current expansion of ICE detention or CC camps in the United States. Currently open and in use. Alligator Alcatraz, Alligator Auschwitz. In the Everglades in Florida, we all pretty much know about that one, opened July 3rd with a capacity of 5,000 beds. North Lake Processing Center, Baldwin, Michigan, reopened June 16th. And I just now heard about it. Housing.
So they got concentration camps open that you never heard about. Some of them been open for over a month now.
To 1,800 detainees. Housing. Delaney Hall, Newark, New Jersey, reopened May 2025 under Geo Group, holding 1,000 on the East Coast. California City, California, Core Civic converting a facility into a 2,560-bed ICE center under conversion, but already funded.
And what she said in California, one of these new concentration camps is under conversion. So they'll take existing buildings such as a Walmart, an abandoned mall, abandoned buildings, and convert it to a concentration camp.
Detention centers active or starting very recently, so planned or under construction. Camp Blanding in Florida, emergency powers used to fast-track another 2,000-bed facility near Jacksonville. Colorado, 6 potential sites.
6.
ICE is eyeing 6 decommissioned sites. For example, Walsenburg, Colorado Springs, for repurposing. Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Offshore expansion up to a 30,000 bed capacity under Trump-era memo. Planned summary, at least 8 to 9 facilities in various stages, from active construction to under serious government consideration. Federal budget and nationwide rollout. Congress approved $45 billion for building new ICE detention centers, targeting 100,000 plus beds, doubling current capacity.
Wow.
Approximately 56,000 to 100,000. Contracts show dozens of for-profit sites being lined up in 8+ states: California, Kansas, Michigan, Nevada, New Jersey, New Mexico, Texas, and Washington.
And I guarantee you, when the research is done on who other, because there's 2 more videos of her speaking.
Okay, so yeah, that's the point for that video. So pretty much, there's concentration camps that's been open for a number of months now. Then you got many more across the U.S. at various stages of development. You got buildings that's being converted into concentration camps. ICE got $48 billion alone just to build concentration camps. Some of them will hold hundreds of people to thousands of people. And some states got up to 6, 9 concentration camps under development. Now they just got their new budget, so expect it to pick up. Expect a lot more concentration camps to start being builded at a faster rate. So we're going to get this. This is the book of Revelation chapter 2 verse 10. This is why John said this: "Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison." If you ask a Christian, they think they're going to go to jail for being a Christian. No, this is worse than any jail or any prison to date. When it says the devil shall throw some of you in a prison, that's a concentration camp. That's where we're going to be. Because in the jail and prison, you still got rights. You're still considered a U.S. citizen. You still got the right to an attorney, to a lawyer, etc. But remember, these people are declared to be immigrants. They're not citizens. And in America, if you're not considered a U.S. citizen, they don't consider you human. They consider you less than human, especially the 12 tribes, so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, and Seminole Indians. So again, devil shall throw some of you into prison. This is not a U.S. jail or prison. That would be these new concentration camps that's being built. It says what? That you may be tried. So we're gonna be tested. It says, and you shall have tribulation 10 days. So we're gonna all go through a certain amount of trouble. It says, be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. But yeah, that's why he said, fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Because what? Jail or prison, you go in there, you might get into a couple fights. You know, if you cool. But no, he said, fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Because you're going to have straight tribulation in these concentration camps, and we're going to get into it. But that's why the next verse says this. In the book of Acts 14:22, confirming the souls of the disciples and exhorting them to continue in the faith, that we must, through much tribulation, enter into the kingdom of Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai. And if you ask a Christian, they think of tribulation is the devil tempting you at work. You know, people giving you a hard time out in the world. No, this tribulation that we gonna face, we ain't faced it yet. It's the tribulation we gonna face here at the end, known as Jacob's trouble, also known as the Great Tribulation. we ain't been through nothing yet as believers. Everything we've been through up to this point is being practiced. Now we coming up to the real deal. Again, we ain't been through nothing yet. So when it says through much tribulation, we enter into the kingdom, we about to enter into that time of tribulation. But remember, Revelation 2 and 10, when it said, for none of the things which thou shalt suffer, behold, the devil shall cast him into prison, that you may be tried. You shall have tribulation 10 days. Yeah, and through this tribulation, if we make it through, hey, we receive the kingdom. But let's get this word tribulation. Let's get this word tribulation. We know what it means, but we want to make it as simple as possible. So this is G2347. And what we about to get after this precept is the tribulation that people are going through in these concentration camps. So tribulation, it says pressure, oppression. And we've been oppressed already, but here this time of Jacob's trouble, the great tribulation, you're going to be oppressed unlike never before. And we're going to show some examples when we get to the rest of these videos in a little bit. But let's get this word oppression. It says prolonged, cruel, or unjust treatment or control. So with the people going through, what we go through here in America as a people, is cruel. But what's going on in these concentration camps and what will be going on will be far worse. And not even just in the concentration camp. The tribulation is not limited to the concentration camp. Tribulation gonna be at people's front door. It's gonna be all up and down your street. The tribulation gonna be everywhere. So it really don't matter if you in a concentration camp or not. It's gonna be bad all around. Now let's get this word tribulation. It says a cause of great trouble or suffering. And what's that great trouble? The time of Jacob's trouble. So it caused a great trouble or great suffering. Now let's get this word straits. Well, we get this word distress. Well, extreme anxiety, sorrow, and pain. So in these concentration camps, when John said they're gonna throw some of you in the prison, you're gonna have tribulation, you're gonna have extreme pain, anxiety, sorrow, cruel, prolonged treatment. And great trouble and great suffering. We've been through suffering, as a people. But what we've been through is about to be turned up. But through this great tribulation, we enter into the kingdom, those who endure unto the end. Now, we're going to get this next video. So check this out. And you see the title of it, Worms in Their Food. Horrific allegations from inside Trump's alligator Alcatraz. So let's get some of the tribulation, oppression that's going on in these concentration camps.
Right in the middle of the sweltering heat of the Florida Everglades, reports of mosquitoes the size of elephants.
You hear that? Mosquitoes the size of elephants. Esau's a mad scientist, always experimenting on something, so I believe it. Probably gigantic mosquitoes, which you know how miserable those can be.
Right in the middle of the sweltering heat of the Florida Everglades, reports of mosquitoes the size of elephants, no water to clean yourself, and food that has worms in it. Those stomach churning details come from an inmate inside the new Florida Immigration Detention Center known as Alligator Alcatraz.
But you see that mosquitoes the size of elephants, there's no water to bathe. If there's no water to bathe, there's probably no water to drink either. Just assuming. But it says they give you food once a day and the food has worms in it. Now, we're going to switch to another video real quick to get information about this water situation. Now, check out the water situation. Bear with me one moment.
And their drinking water comes from the toilet. People are on the toilet, you can't drink water. Today, lawmakers from Florida were allowed to tour Alligator Alcatraz. No phones or cameras were allowed inside. They couldn't speak with any detainees.
What we saw, the conditions that we saw inside this internment camp, which it is nothing less than that description, were really appalling.
Saw in there is very simple. We saw humans being held in cages, 32 people per cage, 3 toilets in each cage for these 32 people.
But this idea that the worst of the worst is...
So yeah, supposedly drinking water comes from the toilet. 3 toilets per 32 people. 32 people in each cage. But let's get back to this other video to get more on it. And this is the tribulation that we all must face to enter into the kingdom.
This weekend, members of the Florida State Legislature and Congress will be able to go inside for the first time to see the facility for themselves. Joining me now is NBC South Florida's Hatzel Vela, who has been reporting by talking to inmates inside Alligator Alcatraz. Also here, State Senator Shevrin Jones, who will be on that tour on Saturday. Hatzel, tell us more about what you heard, what you learned about the inside of Alligator Alcatraz.
Well, Chris, first, thank you so much for having us, because we believe this is an issue, not just here in South Florida, but an issue that should be watched across the country. Let me tell you, we've been talking to family after family, and there seems to be a trend, a pattern when it comes to the complaints about what's happening inside the facility. And we're hearing anything from not enough access to showers, bad food, extreme temperatures, whether it's from hot to cold. They just seem to be always complaining about that. And then, of course, you mentioned it yourself, the size of the mosquitoes. One gentleman told us that they're the size of elephants. The second concern that we should talk about for these folks is that access to immigration attorneys. They say they haven't been able to see their immigration attorneys so that folks can understand at home watching. Typically in an ICE detention facility,
they can't get their lawyer because they're not citizens. So they're not considered people.
Do get access to your immigration attorney. Not the case here, and we believe that's the case because, remember, this is a facility, Chris, run by the state, and it has been a facility where little people have been able to go inside to see what's really actually going on. We've been getting these stories, not just from relatives, but also from the detainees themselves by using their phones.
So, Senator, you are going to have a chance to go in this weekend. What are you expecting to see?
First of all, I expect to see a very sanitized facility, and we will only see what the administration want us to see. Here's the facts. We have the text messages. As a matter of fact, I just got a text message from another family member who's inside the facility. So we know that this worst of the worst rhetoric that is absolutely false. That is coming from the Trump administration.
Let me ask you, can you tell me what was in that text message? Was it more about the conditions inside?
I can read it to you. It said he's still sick. Everyone else is still sick. And supposedly they offer medicine to people, but they haven't given it to them yet. They just asked who needs it. They didn't say what they were going to give them, and they never returned. My husband did get another shower, thankfully, and they actually gave him new uniform, although it's too big for him.
So that's the point there. So Here you got mosquitoes the size of elephants. They say everybody's sick. Ain't nobody getting no medicine. No access to water for cleaning or showering. Drinking water supposedly coming from the toilet. Worms in the food. Extreme temperatures. Extreme hot to extremely cold. 3 toilets per 32 people. 32 people per cage. And I guess, they got phones in there. So they're able to talk to people on the outside. But we're going to address that. But let's get this real quick. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 30, verse 7. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. And this is the time that we're entering into, Jacob's trouble, which I'm going to get this in the NLT. In all history, there has never been such a time of terror. It will be a time of trouble for my people Israel. And this time of terror, this time of trouble is what? That's that tribulation that we're going to be faced with. That's why Revelation 2:10 said, fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. If you got to suffer, no drinking water, no water to bathe and shower. If you got to suffer not eating because there's worms and maggots in the food. You may have to suffer no medicine, medical treatment. You're going to have to suffer, certain living conditions, not being comfortable. That's something we all going to be faced with, even us believers. But this is that time of terror such as never been. Now, we got this information because supposedly, people in there got phones so they could contact, their relatives. But what I must say is when they start throwing you so-called blacks, so-called Negroes in them concentration camps, they gonna take the phones away. They know they can't have a bunch of niggas having phones at a concentration camp. They know a bunch of so-called blacks gonna start planning something. They gonna start planning their escape. They know they can't leave a bunch of Negroes alone and a way to communicate. They know Negroes gonna plot something. They're not gonna take it laying down how the so-called Mexicans, Northern Kingdom are. So they got phones at the minute for the moment, but pretty soon it's gonna be no phones allowed. Again, especially when they start throwing so-called Negroes in them concentration camps. Because then not only that, it's gonna be a lot more information coming out that they don't want the public to know. And if they wanted to talk about this to the public, what they not telling us? So again, it's really a lot worse in there than we think. Don't forget they throwing people off of airplanes. They might have started feeding people to the alligators already. But then pestilence. They said everybody's sick, worms in the food. But that's why the Lord said this in the book of Ezekiel chapter 5 verse 17. So I will send upon you famine and evil beasts that's coming. It says they shall bereave thee, and pestilence and blood shall pass through thee. I will bring a sword upon thee. I, the Lord Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh have spoken. But see that? The Lord said pestilence and blood gonna pass through our people. That's why you got gigantic mosquitoes. They already said everybody's sick. Maybe it's from the mosquitoes, or maybe it's from the it being unsanitary. Maybe it's drinking water out the toilet. Who knows? Maybe somebody ate some of that food with the worms and maggots in it. There's no telling. But they're able to do that because these people are not U.S. citizens, according to their law. So according to their law, you could treat them worse than you treat animals. And that's that tribulation that oppression that we all gonna have to face. Now, and that's why you're gonna have to trust on the Lord, and that's why we should be practicing fasting, because we're gonna have to go without not just food. You're gonna have to go without water. You're gonna have to go without being comfortable. You're gonna have to go without taking baths and showers. We don't know for how long until the Lord provide. We'll have to wait on the Lord. But let's say somebody didn't have faith and they ate the food with the maggots and the worms in it. Not being able to fast some different things, not being able to wait on the Lord, you make it worse on yourself. Because that's not the first time they did that to our people. Back during the times of slavery, they used to feed our people slop. The intestines, the gizzards, the pig feet, the pig ears, the organs, the slop. And that wasn't the first time. That goes all the way back during the time of the Greeks. When they would make our people sacrifice unclean animals, etc. But we're going to get this in the book of First Maccabees. Because somebody who don't trust in the Lord might say, F it, they got to survive, they going to eat what they got to eat. That's the wrong attitude to have. If you just going to eat whatever's in front of you, you're not waiting on the Lord. But this is First Maccabees 1:62. Just to go straight to the point. Howbeit, many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing. Yeah, worms are unclean. Maggots are unclean. And this is a mentality that you're going to have to have. You're not going to eat any unclean thing during the troubles and tribulation we're going to face. And it's not just about eating, but receive anything that goes against the law, statutes, and commandments. Most importantly, the RFID market chip. But yeah, this is going to be the importance of fasting right now. Because we're going to pretty much, you're going to go without. Now we're going to go to the next thing we got pulled up right here. Let me see what I can do with it. Okay, Kilmar Abrego Garcia was one of 288 U.S. immigrants sent to CICA without ever receiving due process. He is the first and possibly the only person among them to make it out. His first-hand account of the harrowing conditions inside El Salvador's mega prison should serve as a wake-up call to all of us. And it should serve as a wake-up call to you 12 tribes. To the 12 tribes. Kilmar Abrego Garcia reveals heartbreaking ordeal of torture inside El Salvador's mega prison. And it's not just there. It's going to be torture at all these prisons and concentration camps. Now let me see if I can, there we go. It says he was subject to severe mistreatment upon arrival, including but not limited to severe beatings, severe sleep deprivation, inadequate nutrition, and psychological torture. Psychological torture could be anything. See, sleep deprivation. So you're not going to even be sleeping how you want to through Jacob's trouble. But that's why the Lord said, fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Just be faithful unto death. But again, severe beatings, severe sleep deprivation, inadequate nutrition, food with worms in it, and psychological torture. But severe beatings. Let's deal with that real quick. Well, we'll get to it in a minute. Let's get the next one. Upon arrival, the detainees were greeted by a prison official who stated, "Welcome to CCOT. Whoever enters here doesn't leave." Yeah, and that's going to be true. You know, they're going easy right now, but wait till they go full force. Again, whoever ends up in these concentration camps, you know, you're not going to have no phones, no way of communication. It's going to be as if you dead. You're going to have no contact with the outside. Now, I might have missed it, but they say it ain't even no windows. You don't know if it's night or daytime. Dang, the last one not working. Okay. Abrego Garcia and 20 other Salvadorians were forced to kneel from approximately 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. so they had to stand on their knees, with guards striking anyone who fell from exhaustion. During this time, Plaintiff Abrego Garcia was denied bathroom access and soiled himself. So you can't even go to the bathroom like you want to during this time of Jacob's trouble, great tribulation. It made them kneel for 9 hours. And anybody who failed, they got beat. But these are the horrors and the terrors of Jacob's trouble. And it's going to be a lot worse stuff than that. But again, a lot of people was getting beat up in there. And that's why the book of Mark, chapter... Let me do this real quick. We're going to come to the book of Mark, chapter 13, verse 9. But take heed to yourselves, for they shall deliver you up to councils. Let's look up this word councils. In Mark 13 and 9, let's look up this word councils. G4892. It says, in the assembly of judges, magistrates, and ambassadors, whether convene or deliberate or pass judgment. So you're going to be delivered up to councils. You're going to be delivered up, you know, to judges. And who would your judges be? It would be the ICE officers. You know, the military police. Them the councils you're going to be delivered up to. But take heed to yourselves, for they shall deliver you up to councils, and in the synagogues you shall be beaten. We just read how they got beaten severely in El Salvador. And in the synagogues you shall be beaten. You shall be brought before rulers and kings for my sake, for a testimony against them. So the true believers, you know, we the prize. But that's going to be our moment to testify against them for those who be delivered up. Or if not to them, the Lord may have you go into a FEMA death camp so you can spread the gospel to somebody else that's in there that may be part of the elect. Now, we got a couple more things we're going to get. We're going to get this next video. It's going to be real quick. And it says they confiscated their Bibles. But let's zoom in a little bit. They took their Bibles as if the heat maggots and isolation weren't enough. So they took the people's Bibles. Why? Because so-called Mexicans, Guatemalans, Central South Americans, they are the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. And anytime the children of Israel are in trouble, great trouble, they call on the Lord. So why did they take the Bibles? Because they don't want the children of Israel, so-called Mexicans, Guatemalans, South Central Americans, they don't want them to call on the Lord. And not bad if they did an experiment, you had so-called Mexicans, so-called Chinese, so-called Africans, so-called East Indians, so-called Arabs in a concentration camp. I bet you the only people who would lean on the Bible would be so-called Mexicans. When have you ever seen a Chinese man get upset and start praying to the Lord, start reading the Bible? Same thing with the East Indian and the Arab and the real African. The only people that cry out to the Lord in times of trouble would be the 12 tribes, so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, and Seminole Indians. The only reason Esau supposedly calls on the Lord when he's in trouble, because he's even deceived himself. But that's why they took the Bibles. They took the Bible from the people that the book belongs to. So yeah, that famine of the word coming. And that's why it's important to get full of this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding while you can. Now, this is the book of Amos 8 and 11. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord Yahweh Bahasham Yahushua, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of the Lord. Now, in them concentration camps, you can't hear these videos. You're not going to be able to have no Bibles. They shall wander from sea to sea, from north even to the east. They shall run to and fro to seek the word of the Lord, and shall not find it. And that's the reason some of the believers may get delivered up to these concentration camps to spread the word of the Lord to members of the elect who may be in there. But yeah, they taking the people Bibles, not the phones. They're not taking the phones, but taking the Bibles. Now you know that they the people of the book. And that's why the Lord said this, Isaiah 55 and 6, seek ye the Lord while he may be found. Call ye upon him while he is near. So get full of this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding while you can. Seek the Lord and what he requires of you while you can. Seek what's pleasing to the Lord while you can. Seek to understand what to do during these times of trouble while you can. Because best believe, with them taking people Bibles, there's some people in there that's losing faith. They giving up. They don't know what to do. They should have got full of this word while they can. So that's an important lesson for the rest of us out here in the real world. More so those of us in this truth. You know, get the word while we can. Because a lot of people, they going to want to seek this understanding when it's too late. They not going to know what to do. They going to make all of the wrong decisions and make it harder on themselves. Ultimately, bringing judgment, bringing death upon themselves. That's why David said this, Isaiah 33 and 6. Wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times. In the strength of salvation, the fear of the Lord is his treasure. So this is going to keep you stable and grounded mentally when it get real bad out here in the streets. When all hell is breaking loose, there's no food, or those who be in the concentration camps. This wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that's going to keep you stable. So you don't just react according to the flesh and start making all of the wrong decisions, not moving with wisdom, not knowing what to do. That's why it says, seek the Lord while he may be found in Isaiah 55:6. Because this very same word is what's going to get us through what we're about to face. And that's Jacob's trouble. That's why David said this in the book of Psalms, chapter 27, verse 10. Verse 11, teach me thy way, O Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua. Lead me in a plain path because of my enemies. So yeah, we're being taught and instructed on what to do during these times of trouble. We being taught and instructed on what to do when the enemy come in like a flood. But that's why, again, it says, teach me thy way, teach us this understanding, this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. O Lord, lead me in the plain path. What's the path? The book. It says, because of my enemies. So the Lord left us a set of instructions on how to combat our enemies, how to defend ourselves against our enemies. And this is not a physical defense, but mentally. And this is the importance of having a mental defense. So when we come to the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 7, verse 12, for wisdom is a defense. See that? Wisdom is a defense. That's why David said, what? Teach me thy way. Teach me this wisdom because of my enemies, so that we can be defended during these times of trouble. But the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom giveth life to them that have it. So there's not going to be no money. There's not going to be no food, because money is a defense as well. But the thing about knowledge, wisdom, understanding is that it'll save your life. It'll preserve your life. When all else fails, because all else will fail. Anything that you got at your disposal, anything that you got in your possession, you're not going to have it with you in Jacob's trouble. It's going to be no use, no benefit to you in Jacob's trouble. So when all else fails, we're going to rely on his wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Which is why David said, teach me thy way, O Lord. Lead me in the plain path. Show me the way. Show me your way because of my enemies. There's going to be no way out. There is no hope through what we're about to face. But the Lord, Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai, he is the way. That's why David said, teach me thy way. David didn't say, show me a way. No, it's very specific. Teach me thy way, O Lord. Lead me in the plain path because of my enemies. Deliver me not over to the will of my enemies. That's why we need to be taught this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, so that our enemies, Esau, even the white man, can't get over on us. Everybody else, without this truth, without this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, Esau gonna get over on you. For false witnesses are risen up against me, and such as breathe out cruelty. So not only are we not going to have anything at our disposal to help us, they're going to make us the new class of criminals. Free thinkers, outspoken speakers, terrorists, identity extremists. They're going to make us public enemy number one. I have fainted unless I had believed to see the goodness of the Lord, Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai, in the land of the living. So we got hope. Everybody else gonna lose hope. They're not gonna see no way out. They don't see that it's the kingdom that's on the other side of this tribulation that we about to go through. But what David say? I had fainted. I would have given up. I would have lost all hope unless I had believed to see the goodness that's the kingdom and the Lord in the land of the in the land of the living. So we got something to live for. We got something to fight for. Everybody else gonna give up. They're gonna crash out. But again, to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. So we got something to fight for. And the Lord will give us this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding as a defense. Wait on the Lord, be of good courage. So that's what we're going to do. So no, we're not going to eat no food with maggots in it if it's given to us. We're not going to fear none of the things that we shall suffer. But no, Lord willing, each and every one of us be faithful unto death. Wait on the Lord, be of good courage. He shall strengthen thee. He shall strengthen thine heart. And your heart is dealing with your mind. Because physically, there's nothing that any of us can do. Rather you a woman or rather you a man. Strong as fast as you can be. It's the mind, which is the heart, that got to be strengthened. That's why I can't put up the post. My computer get to tripping. But that's why the people were being beaten. And it said, what? Psychological torture. Psychological torture, that could be anything. That's why he says, be of good courage, he will strengthen thine heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. Now this makes sense. Because the people in these concentration camps, and when more of our people start being through in there, what they gonna wait for? What they waiting on? Far as they know, they never gonna make it out. Far as they know it, they gonna die. Far as they know it, they gonna break free or die trying. You ain't gotta break out. It says, wait, I say, on the Lord. So here in this time of Jacob's trouble, aka the great tribulation, anything we're gonna be faced with, we're gonna wait on the Lord. And then when we get this in the book of Isaiah 30 and 18, therefore will the Lord Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai wait, that he may be gracious unto you. So the Lord is waiting on them that wait on him. And really the Lord is ready. He's waiting on us. Therefore will he be exalted, that he may have mercy upon you. For Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai is a God of judgment. Blessed are all they that wait for him. So blessed are they that wait on the Lord. And what's that blessing? You're going to eat in the middle of a famine. You're going to eat while everybody else, they couldn't wait. So they ate the food with the maggots and the worms in it. No, we're going to eat real food. We're going to drink real water. Not nothing out of the toilet. Not nothing that Esau could have dropped something in it. The Lord gonna break us free out the concentration camps. While everybody else that try to escape, they die. They get shot, they get ate by an alligator, they get mauled by a bear. Blessed are all they that wait for him. Now that makes sense. You know the importance of waiting on the Lord. And one of my favorite quotes, I think it's from John Wick, the first one. You will do nothing because you can only do nothing. So yeah, it ain't nothing we can do. So ain't no sense in trying, but wait on the Lord. Hey, but Lord, this is informative, edifying. So next time, Shalom.